Hey heroes, welcome to another amazing episode of History of the Marvel Universe. In the previous video, I took a pretty in-depth look at the origin and history of Kang the Conqueror up until the events of Avengers Forever. This time we'll simply be focusing on some of the various identities and guises that Kang has adopted in different incarnations over the centuries. Number 1. Nathaniel Richards. This would be his true identity, a man who lived on Earth 6311 in the 31st century but longed for adventure. He has the same name as Reed Richards' father, who he seems to be a descendant of, but it's often been alleged that he was instead a direct descendant of Dr. Doom. In either event, after discovering parts and plans to a time machine his ancestor had created, he decided to escape the mundanity of his peaceful age by traveling into the past, which started him on the path to becoming a conqueror. Number 2. Rama Tut. This is the guise that Richards adopted after crash landing in ancient Egypt. And it's actually how the character was first introduced, appearing in Fantastic Four number 19 in 1963. Using advanced weapons and technology he'd brought with him, Rama Tut took over as pharaoh and ruled for a full decade, during which time he was worshipped like a god. After being defeated by the FF, he escaped into the future, where he adopted the guise of Kang the Conqueror. In his older years, he actually returned to ancient Egypt, and Rama Tut ruled for another 10 years. But his second reign was apparently one of virtue and compassion, as he'd become more calm and introspective in his older years. At the end of this reign, he voluntarily placed himself into suspended animation so he could awaken thousands of years later and clash with his younger self. Speaking of which, number 3, Kang the Conqueror. This is of course the most recognizable identity that Nathaniel Richards has adopted, first appearing in Avengers number 8 roughly a year after his debut as Rama Tut. While attempting to return to his own 31st century, Richards overshot and landed in the war-torn year 4000. It was there that he decided to become an heir of doom and began his conquest of time and space. If it seems like I'm zooming through this, then it's because we've already covered all of this in the previous video, so check that one out for all the details. Because he spent most of his temporal conquests in this guise, the vast majority of his divergent counterparts across the multiverse are some variation on Kang. At one point, 3 Kangs joined forces to hunt down and kill every divergent counterpart. At the end of this, when there was only one Kang left, he absorbed the memories of every slain counterpart, leaving one true Kang who eventually became... Number 4. Immortus. This version of the character first appeared only 2 issues after Kang in Avengers number 10. Although he wasn't revealed to be another Kang variant until Giant Size Avengers number 3 a decade later. Immortus is an older and more contemplative variant who typically uses manipulation to achieve his goals rather than conquest. The initial incarnation was a future version of the Rama Tut who retired to Egypt for a second reign and subsequently clashed with his younger self. After all of that happened, he disappeared into the time stream and one more final divergence occurred. While one Rama Tut returned to his role as Kang the Conqueror, another settled in the Limbo dimension. There he adopted the identity of Immortus, created an artificial being called Tempest, and employed shape-shifting creatures called Space Phantoms. Immortus was then approached by the Timekeepers, who recruited him into their service. While the Timekeepers often demanded death for those they deemed a threat to the time stream, Immortus preferred a softer approach and avoided outright killing whenever possible. Unlike the many divergent variants of Kang, Immortus is supposedly unique in the multiverse, producing no further counterparts after taking residence in Limbo. One could presume that occasional unexplained variations are either temporal shenanigans, misdirection from the true Immortus, or simply other Kangs who independently assumed that identity. It should also be noted that Immortus was reborn into a younger body after his death during the Destiny War, the details of which were also discussed in the previous video. Number 5. The Scarlet Centurion. Originally appearing in the second Avengers Annual in 1968, this is an identity that Richards adopted after his initial reign as Rama Tut, but before becoming Kang the Conqueror. Under this guise, he mesmerized the original Avengers into eliminating the rest of Earth's heroes and villains, creating the alternate reality 689. He was defeated by the Avengers of Earth 616 and subsequently became Kang, but there are other variants who kept the Scarlet Centurion persona. On Earth 8110, he convinced the Avengers to retire after capturing and depowering the rest of the world's superhuman population. However, the team reassembled to defeat him after the Centurion tried attempted to conquer a defenseless Earth. In another timeline, Reality 98702, another variant attempted a similar scheme using the X-Men as pawns instead of the Avengers. Perhaps most notably, one version of the Scarlet Centurion started an empire of his own. This variant battled with the Squadron Supreme of Earth 712, otherwise known as Earth S, after conquering a possible future of that timeline. Also, following the Destiny War, Kang's son, Marcus, adopted the Scarlet Centurion identity until he failed his father and was put to death. Number 6. Fred. This is another thing we talked about in the previous video, but when Kang absorbed the memories from every variant of himself, the mental stress threatened to overwhelm his mind. To save himself, Kang created a divergent counterpart with which to divide that stress. This divergent Kang was then recruited into the Council of Cross-Time Kangs, a group of individuals from different timelines who had each killed a Kang variant and stolen his equipment. These so-called Kangs included Kang Cobra, Kang Cassio, Kang Kong, Kang Orphan, Kang Ransom, Kang Ralex, Kang Swatch, Kang of Earth Mesozoic 24, and of course the bearded Chairman Kang who secretly reported to the true Kang Prime. Other cross-time Kangs include the giant Kang, who briefly appeared in Excalibur, and Kangaroo the Conqueror from the pages of Peter Porker the Spectacular Spider-Ham. Since each of these Kangs chose an individual name to differentiate themselves, the Divergent Kang cheekily took the name Fred after Fred Flintstone. He was later killed by a variation of Ravonna Renslayer who'd infiltrated the Council under the guise of Kang Nebula. The Council of Cross-Time Kangs was eventually wiped out by the temporal monster Eliath as part of a plot concocted by Kang Prime, but a similar group known as the Kang Collective eventually emerged. And yes, me bringing up Fred at all was basically just an excuse to talk about the Council of Cross-Time Kangs. Number 7. Victor Timely from Avengers Annual number 21 in 1992. One of the many divergent counterparts created during Kang's temporal journeys, this particular Kang traveled back to 1901 and founded the town of Timely, Wisconsin. Under the name Victor Timely, he became the town's first mayor and established his company, Timely Industries. While he was often occupied as Kang, Victor Timely left robot duplicates of himself that appeared to age and die and be replaced by Victor Timely Jr. and then Victor Timely III as the decades rolled on. It was this particular version of Kang who built the city of Chronopolis on the edge of the Limbo Dimension. Number 8. The Whisperer from What If number 35 to 38 in 1992. When his masters, the Timekeepers, were replaced and impersonated by their darker counterparts, the Time Twisters, Immortus briefly adopted the guise of the Whisperer to secretly work against them. While using Nexus energy absorbed from the Scarlet Witch, the Whisperer sent his astral self across the multiverse to manipulate individuals and preserve timelines that would ultimately lead to the Time Twisters' downfall. Number 9. Kang the Time Conqueror from Spider-Boy Team-Up number 1, 1997. This variation on Kang appeared in the Amalgam universe, a reality which resulted from the combining of the Marvel and DC universes. Early in his career, this Kang was known as Kronos Tut, the Time Pharaoh, and battled the challengers of the Fantastic. Number 10. Pope Immortus from Universe X in 2000 to 2001. This variant appeared on Earth 9997, better known as Earth X, in which virtually all of humanity was granted inhuman powers by the Terrigen Mists. There he led the Church of Immortus, but found himself unable to return to Limbo before being affected by the Mists. This caused him to shed his skin, turning blue and taking the name Kang the Immortal. Since the true Immortus is supposed to be unique, Pope Immortus is most likely another Kang variant who took on the identity before being trapped on Earth X. Number 11. Iron Lad from 2005's Young Avengers. This variant of Nathaniel Richards was visited by his adult self when he was 16 years old. In an attempt to jumpstart his villainous career, Kang the Conqueror gave his younger self armor and technology. However, this Nathaniel rejected his destiny and used Kang's suit to escape to the 21st century. He tried to go to the Avengers for help, but landed in a time period after they had disassembled. He did find the remains of the synthezoid Vision, and with it files on potential next-generation Avengers he'd been gathering. Richards redesigned his armor and adopted the identity of Iron Lad, assembling a new team of young Avengers to help fight against Kang. He did succeed in seemingly killing his older self, but was then forced to return to his proper place in time, ostensibly fulfilling his destiny to prevent damage to the time stream. He did return during the Children's Crusade, but we've talked about that before on the channel, along with his relationship with Cassie Lang and the younger Vision that was based on Iron Lad's brain patterns. There are variants of Iron Lad in the multiverse as well, including some who did indeed become Kang at a younger age. There's also an Iron Lad variant who joined the most recent incarnation of the Exiles. This version of the character did not run into the past when he was approached by his older self, instead using the armor to take revenge on his childhood bullies as Iron Lad before being recruited into the Exiles. Number 12. Kid Immortus from FF number 8 in 2013. At least one version of Iron Lad adopted this identity supposedly before becoming Kang himself, and worked alongside a variant of Ravonna Renslayer. Kid Immortus briefly allied himself with Dr. Doom and other villains, but was betrayed and had his power stolen. Number 13. Mr. Griffin from All New All Different Avengers in 2015 and 2016. This variant is one of several versions of Kang to diverge during some sort of chronal glitch in the time stream. Trapped in the 21st century, he took the name Mr. Griffin and became a businessman, even purchasing Avengers Tower. He clashed with a new team of Avengers made up of both veterans and younger legacy heroes, but was ultimately defeated. Okay, last one. Number 14, the Time Eater from 2018's Exiles. This version of Kang is a variant who successfully stole the power of Galactus. He repeated this process in different realities multiple times until he was powerful and ravenous enough to consume entire timelines. This monstrous Kang was fortunately defeated thanks to the Exiles team that included the Iron Lad previously mentioned. And that's all I've got for you this week. A bit of a shorter one, of course, went through it pretty quick, but after the previous monster, I hope you can forgive me. We'll be back to regular length episodes next week at the scheduled time. In the meantime, if you like this channel and you want to help me keep doing it full time, please consider supporting me on Patreon. For only $1 a month, you get your name in the special thanks here, and you get to vote in monthly polls, which help decide what topics get full videos dedicated to them. Speaking of which, if you want more Kang and you haven't seen the previous video, be sure to check that one out because it goes into detail on the Prime Kang's original timeline. I'll link that in the description along with other relevant videos that you might be interested in. But that's all I've got for now, so until next time, true believers, Excelsior!